the attack on al-Baghdadi and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer, all perfectly executed and done.
Trump discussed major strike in Venezuela.
Achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly, in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark and it was deadly. But captured along with his wife, Celia Flores.
Gyakorlatilag Trump első bejelentkezése a venezuelai rakéta és felszabadító munkája után.
Jay Clayton for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, maybe like never before. These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea, just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in a ready, what's called a ready position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military on the planet by far. With capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world.
Az Egyesült Államoknak van a legjobb felszerelés, katonai felszerelés a világon.
Even if you just look at the boats, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills 25 on average.
Nagy mennyiségű kábítószer érkezik az Egyesült Államokban a tengereken.
And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela.
A legnagyobb mennyiség Venezuelából érkezik.
Such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela.
Szeretnénk a nagy embereknek, a venezuelai nagyszerű embereknek szabadságot.
And want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it essentially until such time as a proper transition can take place. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure.
Trump felsorolja, hogy az amerikai olajtársaságok rendbe tették a venezuelai olajtársaságok infrastruktúráját.
We need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not.
Lesz egy második támadási vonal is, támadási hullám. Ez az első támadás rendkívül sikeres volt, mivel nem volt veszteség az Egyesült Államoknak. Még nagyobb támadási hullám indul Venezuela ellen.
What we were able to do and accomplish will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered.
Venezuelai az Egyesült Államokban, és rendkívül boldogok, mert ugye Venezuelában szenvedtek.
Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly
Ez szokásos mantra, Venezuela elnöke, vezetője volt a kábítószer csoportoknak.
The vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, many Americans, hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him.
A kartelt vádolja, aki kapcsolatban volt a venezuelai elnöke, és emiatt több ezer, vagy akár 10 000 amerikai is meghalt.
And then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and Miami or Florida.
Rendkívül aktívak a kommentelők.
People where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law, and I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs,
Trump összefoglalóan támadja a Venezuela elnökét, aki destabilizálta és szétzúzta stabilitást nem csak Venezuelában, hanem az Egyesült Államokban is. Említi az egyik börtöngang nevét.
They were in Colorado, they took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers off people if they call police. They were brutal. They're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military, Pete, and everybody, and our National Guard, because the job that they've done, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where we have a totally safe city, where it was one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in the world, frankly, and now we have no crime in Washington, D.C.
Az eredményeket taglalja, hogy már nincsen semmilyen jellegű bűnözői aktivitás Washingtonban.
A threat, but we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have on average two a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore. The restaurants are opening, everyone's happy.
Washingtonról beszél, hogy nagyon boldog mindenki. Kinyíltak a vendéglők Washington DC-ben. Megköszönni az összes az amerikai jogi rendszerben dolgozóknak a munkáját.
We've just sort of started a few weeks ago, but crime is down now 77%. And the governor of Louisiana called, great person, and he wanted us to help him a certain very nice part of Louisiana, and we have done that. And it was a rough section, and we have crime down. I understand it's down to almost nothing already after 2.5 weeks. New Orleans, it's down to almost nothing, and we've only been there for 2.5 weeks. Can't imagine why governors wouldn't want us to help. We also helped, as you know, in
gyakorlatilag a külügyminiszter, a biztonsági erőknek a figurái láthatóak.
We had no working ability with the governor. The governor was a disaster, and the mayor was a disaster, but it knocked down crime. But we're pulling out of there when they need us. We'll know. You'll know. You'll be writing about it. And likewise, Los Angeles, where we saved Los Angeles early on.
Elsőként az új Trump adminisztráció megmentette Los Angeles-t. Ha nem történtek volna meg ezek, elvesztettük volna Los Angeles-t.
But we'll be pulling out when they need us, they'll call, or we'll go back if we have to. We'll go back. But we did a great job in various cities. But the place that we're very proud of is Washington, D.C., because it's our nation's capital. We took it from being a
igazán büszke és boldog azért, hogy Washington sikerült megtisztítani a bűntől, hiszen ez a vezető, ez a nagyvár, fővárosa az Egyesült Államoknak. Gyerekeket és amerikaiakat kínoztak meg.
To terrorize our people, and now Maduro will never again be able to threaten an American citizen or
a venezuelai elnöknek soha nem lesz lehetősége még egyszer támadni és bántani az Egyesült Államokat.
Really one of the worst, they say the worst. Americans like 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungari from Houston, beautiful Jocelyn Nungari, what happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted and murdered by
felsorolja az ő olvasata szerint azokat a bűncselekményeket, amit Venezuela áttételesen követett el az Egyesült Államokban.
A bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States to steal American lives. And they came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They came from prisons and jails. The reason I say both, they sound similar. Actually, prisons a little bit more hostile, a little bit tougher. A mental institution isn't as tough as an insane asylum, but we got them both. They sent from their mental institutions, they sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers, they were drug kingpins, they sent everybody bad into the United States. But no longer, and we have now a border where nobody gets through. In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and sold American oil, American assets and American platforms, costing us billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything about it. They took all of our property. It was our property.
Venezuela elnökét azzal vádolja, hogy milliárd és milliárd dollárt vett el az Egyesült Államokban, és az Egyesült Államok nem tett semmit.
10,000 miles away. We built Venezuela oil industry with American talent, drive and skill.
Felépítette a venezuelai olaj.
Just left a property in the history of our country. Massive oil infrastructure was taken like we were babies, so we didn't do anything about it.
Nem tudtunk semmit tenni akkor, amikor Venezuela elvette ezeket a tömeges infrastrukturális fejlesztéseket, amit az Egyesült Államok finanszírozott.
Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night. Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border.
Kitért arra, hogy gyakorlatilag Venezuelának haszontalanok, használhatatlanak voltak a fegyverei.
Dating back more than 2 centuries. And not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal. But we've superseded it by a lot. By a real lot. They now call it the Monroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. So just in concluding, for decades, other administrations have neglected or even contributed to these growing security threats in the Western Hemisphere. Under the Trump administration, we are reasserting American power in a very powerful way in our home region. And our home region is very different than it was just a short while ago. The future will be, and we did this in my first term. We had great dominance in my first term, and we have far greater dominance right now. Everyone's coming back to us. The future will be determined by the ability to protect commerce and territory and resources that are core to national security. These are core to our national security. Just like tariffs are, they've made our country rich, and they've made our national security stronger than ever before. But these are the iron laws that have always determined global power. And we're going to keep it that way. We will secure our borders. We will stop the terrorists. We will crash the cartels, and we will defend our citizens against all threats, foreign and domestic. Other presidents may have lacked the courage or whatever to defend America, but I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives. Very importantly,
a venezuelai támadás Trump elképesztően sikeresnek értékeli.
The American armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist, Maduro, is finally gone, and Venezuela people are free. They're free again. It's been a long time for them, but they're free.
Szabad.
America is a safer nation. This morning, it's a
Megmentette ezt a
prouder
nemzetet
nation
az
this
Egyesült
morning
Államok.
because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us. It didn't allow it to happen. And the Western Hemisphere is right now a much safer place to be. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank General Raisin Kane. He's a fantastic man. I've worked with a lot of generals. I worked with some I didn't like. I worked with some I didn't respect. I worked with some that just weren't good.
Köszönetet mondva tábornoknak, aki akkor valószínűleg ennek a katonai hadműveletnek volt az vezetője.
On sovereignty. I mean, it was an attack for justice. And I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who I'm going to ask to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, can you explain how the U.S. will run Venezuela?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Finally, a commander-in-chief the world respects and the American people deserve. And as the President said, words can barely capture the bravery and the power and the precision of this historic operation. A massive joint military and law enforcement raid flawlessly executed by the greatest Americans our country has to offer. American warriors are second to none, the best in the world and the best of our country. What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry, and glory of the American warrior. I'm simply humbled
mit fog
by
reagálni.
such men, and I tip my hat to
Valószínűleg
Chairman
Putin
Dan
nem lesz
Raisin
boldog,
and
de
all
hát
those
a béketeremtő
Americans
Trump,
who stood watch
aki
last night. Our
megoldja az
warriors
ukrán
are in
válságot
the
is,
elite of America, and
kirobbantott még
again,
egy háborús
President
válságot,
Trump has
de az a szomorú,
our back.
hogy ennek folytatása lesz.
No other
Kína is
country on planet Earth, and it's not
étvágya
even
most
close,
újra
could pull this kind of
előjön.
operation off. And no other president
Valószínűleg
has ever shown this
kitört a
kind of
harmadik
leadership,
világháború.
courage, and resolve. The most powerful combination